Hello and welcome to the Car Care channel, and welcome back to part 2 of car myths. Is it true or is it false? If you missed the part 1, I will leave it right here, also in the description in the video. And without further ado, let's get into the first one right after this. So the first one is, should you warm up your car before you start driving when it's cold? First, let me say this. This is not a myth. However, it has been overinflated. Let's talk about it in details. If the ambient temperature is around 70 degrees or higher, you don't really need to warm up your car. Get in the car, start it. By the time you put your seatbelt on and you're ready to go, that's it. We're ready to go. You don't really need to wait for it to warm up and do all that. However, if you live in an area with frigid temperature, and let's identify that as below freezing, you actually might want to give your modern car a minute or two to warm up. And let's define that modern car, basically anything after 2000 or electronic fuel injection with electronically controlled transmission. And the reason for that not really is the engine. The engine is ready to go after probably 10-15 seconds, but the transmission. Many people will debate this. Yes, the transmission will warm up quicker if you drive it. That is correct. However, in frigid temperatures, that might be an issue because the temperature of the fluid is way too low and you don't have any source of heat like the engine. That's why, did you know that most transmissions have a transmission cooler to cool the fluid when it gets too hot, but modern cars actually have a transmission warmer, which uses the coolant from the engine to warm up the transmission fluid. So that's what you want to give a minute or two. And if you watch actual data on how rapidly modern cars warm up with their coolant management system, and they block coolant from going to places to cause it to rapidly warm up, even in frigid temperatures, when you watch the actual data, you will actually get to that 70 degrees in a matter of a minute or two. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. So if you're in frigid temperature, you don't need to sit down there for 15 minutes with the engine revved up. That actually can start to cause harm. Just let the car idle a minute or two and be on your way, driving safely, and life is good. Does start-stop technology or cars that shut off when you stop at a traffic light hurt your engine? Folks, this one is one of the more newer myths. And majority of people dislike start-stop technology. I am one of those people. It just feels unnatural. But some folks will say it will hurt your engine. Let's talk about this because this one is a little interesting. It does hurt your engine if you have a start-stop event when the engine is cold. However, these systems are extremely smart and they are very well designed even in the most basic form. They will never allow a start-stop event to happen when the engine is cold or when the battery is not fully charged. These are called optimal operating conditions for the start-stop technology. So cold engine, not going to happen. Weak battery, not going to happen. They are heavily monitored because these systems, again, came up in modern cars that have a lot of sensors and a lot of technology behind it. It's not just shut off the engine and restart it. Perhaps we'll do a video detailing what exactly happens with that another time. But the more important thing is there any kind of excessive wear to this engine and the entire powertrain when this start-stop event happens? There is actually one thing that gets overloaded, which is the starter. These starters are much heavier duty starters, and the cars with start-stop technology, they do get overloaded. And some manufacturers will actually dedicate a life cycle, a counter that counts how many times did this starter run, and at a certain time it will actually illuminate the check engine light because you actually stopped using an emissions device. And the reason they do that is they cannot continue reliably to use this starter for start-stop events. So we are going to require you to replace it, even though the starter could be working perfectly fine. Now, some manufacturers do this, some manufacturers don't. From Toyota, this is who I have most of my experience with, the number was right around 283,000 start-stop events. That is a very large number, and basically it's not going to happen in 2 years. You might be looking at 10 years plus. At that point, honestly, majority of cars wouldn't be a bad idea to replace the starter preventatively, so there you have it. But otherwise, there is absolutely no evidence in any way, shape, or form that a fully warmed up engine with a very healthy battery with a start-stop event can cause engine damage. That part is a total myth, folks. Don't worry about it. The next one is a big one: lifetime fluids. Folks, this is a total myth. Let me explain. It is thanks to a group of marketing folks that have never opened a hood of a car in their life that we have the lifetime fluid. Because the number one question you should be asking, sure, it is a lifetime fluid, but what is that lifetime? Is it 10 years, 100,000 miles? Or is it the period of your warranty? What is the definition of that lifetime? Folks, this is a total myth. Be very careful with these lifetime fluid in components that are major components, like your transmission. This is the number one thing that gets the lifetime fluid. If you really read between the lines in your service manual or your service guide, you'll actually find out that there's no such thing. Because if they tell you, if you drive in these optimal lab perfection conditions, then yes, perhaps you can go the lifetime in the car, but that is never the case. And if they tell you if you do anything other than this, you need to service it at this interval. But it's so little fine print that nobody notices. You need to notice and you need to be aware, because there is nothing lifetime. We are not lifetime, let alone the machines that are made by us. Service your car properly. When you see that lifetime stuff, just know that lifetime will be in front of you before you know it, and now you're stuck with a very large repair bill because that transmission fluid that has now over 100,000 miles has never been changed, and you have all kinds of problems. Folks, don't fall for this one. There's nothing is lifetime. Even if you service it, it's not lifetime, but that lifetime will be dramatically less if you don't service it. The next one is, should you break in your new car? Folks, this is a heavy debated one, but here's the bottom line. This is absolutely not a myth. Keyboard warriors will tell you this is a thing of the past. New cars don't have that. However, if you actually open your owner's manual, in any car you buy today, new, they will say exactly the same thing about break-in period that they did 20, 30, 40 years ago. So that is absolutely not a myth. You have to take it easy. Basically, the gist of the break-in period is take it easy on your engine the first 500 miles, ideally up to 1,000 miles. And believe it or not, some modern cars with technology and computers and precision engines will actually limit some performance functions of the engine until that break-in period have passed. An example of that is the 2020 and up Toyota Supra, which is actually made by BMW, a high precision engine according to them. It actually limits your launch control, won't allow you to do it until you reach not 500, not 1,000, 1,200 miles. So there is that. And the last thing is, and again, keyboard warriors will say this: modern engines are broken in at the factory. Folks, if this is a $2 million car, maybe, but cars for you and me, they're not. Because if you think there's a car shortage right now and there's no new cars, if they break in every engine at the factory, we're going to have to wait 3 years for cars to come in, because they'll just be waiting for these engines to break down at the factory. They never do that. That does not happen. They manufacture the engine, they put it in the car, they run a very small performance test to make sure everything is good, and out the door it goes to your dealership and ultimately to you. Please break in your car properly. And there is something of an added bonus to this particular section of this video. Personally, I would recommend you get a break-in oil change at 1,000 miles. It's not required. It's up to you. You're welcome to debate this, but this is what I do with my personal cars, and what is good for me is good for my customers, and more importantly, folks who watch me. So this is my recommendation to you, but it's not a requirement. But what is a requirement is up to 500 miles, or preferably 1,000. Take it easy on that car and read the rest of the break-in instructions in your owner's manual. Here is the next one and the last one in this series. My car has a leak. My mechanic told me it's going to cost me thousands to fix it, but I have this little magical product I could just add and it'll magically make my leak get fixed. Folks, Hear me out. Do not just stop the video right here and go with it. This is not a myth, but it is something taken out of context. Let me explain, because this is very important. Did you ever wonder, how do these products work? Let's talk about the cooling system. This is where people use it. You have a heater core leak and you don't want to tear the dash apart. You have a head gasket leak, you don't want to tear the engine apart. You put this magic product that suddenly it works and people will swear by it, it works. But here's the problem. These products, they actually work by adding very small debris. For lack of a better word, it is debris. You add that debris in the system and this debris will clog the leak. That sounds great, right? Well, here's the part that is not great and is actually completely counterproductive. In the process of clogging the leak, that product will actually clog everything else in its way. In the example of cooling system, you have an heater core leak or you have a head gasket leak. You add this product, all of a sudden your head gasket leak stopped, your heater core leak stopped. But in the process, your thermostat got stuck open, or worse, it got stuck closed and the car overheated. Or your heater core leak got so good that the entire heater core is clogged and now you completely have no heat. That do tend to happen. Folks, you have a leak in your car, you can't afford to fix it. At least whatever fluid is leaking, continue to top it off until you figure out a plan. Don't add these additives. They will not work. This is something so heavily debated. It is an absolute importance that you understand there is no magic fix for leaks. Proper fix them, or for the time being, top off that fluid that is leaking. But don't start adding additives that help with the leak, because before you know it, you have all kinds of new problems that you never had. And now we're back to not square one, square -10. If you would. So there you have it, folks. This is part 2 of the car myths. If you like this style of video, please leave a comment below. Comment about the car myths that you hear, and we will collect some of them. We'll make another video like this one so we can talk about, are these true, are these false, from an actual real life experience that I share with you, so you would not make mistakes with your cars and your cars would last a long time. You wouldn't have any issues with them, and life is wonderful. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.